Hi, everybody. Welcome to Langer at the Mic. I'm Mike Langer. It's been a while. I had to take the last week off just because of a couple of family commitments, but happy to be back. And I'm happy to talk about the Montreal Canadiens hiring of today, adding to their coaching staff, filling out their coaching staff. The Montreal Canadiens have hired former Montreal Canadiens defenseman Stephane Robidas to be their new assistant coach, replacing the vacancy left by Luke Richardson. Now, Stephane Robidas is a sub 6 foot, sub 200-pound defenseman, was drafted in the seventh round in 1995 by the Montreal Canadiens. He played 937 NHL games, 122 games with the Montreal Canadiens from 1999 to 2002. And he had to prove people wrong, just like Martin St. Louis. And he ended up having quite the accomplished NHL career for a seventh round pick. And of course, as I had promised for the last little bit, I will get to your comments. I will get to your questions, everything. I have a lot to catch up on, but we're going to get to it. Just make sure that once again that you are subscribed, and I will feature your comments if you cannot make the stream while it's live. So I got a whole bunch lined up. I'll be getting right to them. But yeah, just a little bit more on Stephane Robidas, rather. He had to prove people wrong like Marty St. Louis. And just like Marty St. Louis, Alex Burrows and Trevor Letowski, the rest of the Canadiens coaching staff, Robidas brings recent NHL experience. He last played for the Leafs in 2014-2015. I think he'll also bring a high amount of hockey sense, hockey IQ, because that's how you have to play for a sub 6 foot, sub 200-pound defenseman for 1,000 games in the NHL. You got to have some hockey sense. And even though it was a different era when he was in his prime in the early 2010s and the late 2000s, I still think he's a great communicator. From especially this Hughes quote that I'm going to bring up here in a second. But yeah, great communicator. He's a great leader, and I think he'll be a great mentor for the Habs plethora of young defensemen, especially a guy like Lane Hutson, who also is well under 6 foot, also well under 200 pounds, and he obviously isn't going to play the same game as Stephane Robidas, who played more of a defensive defenseman shutdown role during his prime in the NHL. But still, Hudson has to learn, even if he does grow to 5'10", 180 or so pounds, he still has to learn how to make it as an undersized defenseman, or how to stay in the NHL as an undersized defenseman. I think Robidas could definitely help him out with that. And he could also help him out with Jordan Harris, who is also not the biggest defenseman by any means, but has a ton of upside. So again, really, really excited for what Robidas could potentially bring to the young defenseman. And here's a quote from Kent Hughes also, as I mentioned. Stephane perfectly matches the profile we were looking for in a candidate. In addition to being an exceptional individual, he is a good communicator, and I believe that players will relate to him because of that. And that's exactly what I tweeted out on Twitter at Mike Langer. You could follow me at Mike Langer. I thought that the Canadiens were going to bring in someone with a little bit more NHL coaching experience, but Robidas still matches the profile, I think, perfectly of what Hughes and Gordon want in their coaching staff, given Martin St. Louis, former player, recent player, obviously Hall of Famer and all the accolades that he has, but more importantly, great hockey mind, recent NHL experience. Same thing with Alex Burrows, and I think that's why they kept Alex Burrows on board, is because he does bring recent NHL experience and a great hockey mind. And also Trevor Letowski as well. He last played in the NHL in 2010. So, but on the other hand, Robidas, like Letowski, like Burrows, and like Martin St. Louis, they also lack NHL coaching experience. Robidas coached Magog, the Cantonniers. Anyway, the Magog Cantonniers of midget AAA. Depends on whether you say that in English or French, I guess. But yeah, so he led them to a Ferrari Cup and was a Coach of the Year finalist. He was supposed to work as an assistant coach with the Sherbrooke Phoenix in the Q, but obviously took the job with the Montreal Canadiens instead. He was both an assistant director and a director of player development with the Toronto Maple Leafs from 2015 to 2021. So all this to say, long story short, Stephane Robidas lacks the NHL coaching experience, but I think he will be great for player development. And I think he'll be great, or it is a great hire considering that the Canadiens are continuing this trend of hiring new coaches, new development staff, instead of recycling old ones and hiring within the organization. They're obviously, I think, going to promote within the organization, but they're not hiring people that were in the organization from 10, 20 years ago, though. Robidas, yeah, he was a defenseman for the Canadiens for 3 years, but he was never obviously in a front office position for the Montreal Canadiens. So I again really like this trend of going for a new and seeing, just opting for a new, refreshing approach, trying to adapt to the modern NHL and not bringing in, I hate to say it, but a bunch of dinosaur head coaches, dinosaur player development executives and whatnot. I think it just continues down that direction of going for new and fresh and relatable to players and emphasizing player development instead of just, again, old school, old fashioned, just systems, grind, and all that. Anyway, so now it's time for your comments, as I had long promised, which I could not get to last week, but we're going to get to them now. We're going to get to a whole bunch of topics, including still get to some on Jeff Petrie, some on Pierre-Luc Dubois, maybe even some on Jonathan Huberdeau. So let's do it. And once again, you got to be publicly subscribed to Langer at the Mic, or subscribed in general to Langer at the Mic, so that way I will keep featuring your comments in these live streams. So let's start with Derek Roberts. Derek Roberts, this is related to Petrie and the Rem Pitlick trade. He just wishes they would have saved more money in cap space, but Petrie, or Matheson rather, is younger than Petrie, and with the savings that they got, they just re-signed Rem Pitlick. So that's a good way of looking at the Petrie trade from a couple weeks ago as well, is you don't only get the cap space and a really good younger defenseman in Mike Matheson, but you also got to sign or re-sign Rem Pitlick. Regarding Pierre-Luc Dubois, which obviously there's a lot of buzz about that, and I made a video weeks ago about that when we were in a slightly different frame of mind. That was before the Habs drafted Slavkovsky. First of all, my opinion on Pierre-Luc Dubois, and I'll get to Gregory's here, is patience. If you can move roster players that will save you cap space, so Anderson, Dvorak, Poehling I would have included, but second round picks at most. If the Jets are looking to get something for Pierre-Luc Dubois, who they're going to lose inevitably, well, then the Canadiens could give them something, but I wouldn't give them a first round pick for next year. I wouldn't give them Caden Gooley. I would not give them Suzuki and Caulfield. Heck no. But anyway, just if you could get Pierre-Luc Dubois for free in 2 years, the best move with him right now is patience. So anyway, Gregory thinks the only way Pierre-Luc Dubois makes sense is if the team can agree to an extension that takes him to age 30 at $6 million a season. I know it's a bit below market value, but they just spent on assets to bring in Doc, Dvorak, a second, and a couple of prospects could get the deal done. What about Logan on the right side, D and Arbor Jack? I see Arbor as a long-term replacement for Romanov. So I think Pierre-Luc Dubois is going to want a little bit more than $6 million a season. Probably a lot more, especially considering the taxes in Quebec. That's just the reality, especially for a top six center that is reliable for 60 points a season. I do agree. I guess the overabundance with Doc, but you can also I would say Doc is more. You want to see what you have in Doc at center, but I feel more confident in Pierre-Luc Dubois to shift to the wing than I do in Kirby Dach, because Kirby Dach on the wing, there's a great thread on Twitter. I just think of this now. I can't really cite him right now, but there's a great thread on Twitter that shows Kirby Dach's strengths and weaknesses, even in an unproductive season with the Chicago Blackhawks. And basically the point of that is he belongs at center and not at wing right now based on his strengths. And again, I just thinking it now, so I'm have to can't really reference it, but anyway, yeah. So just I think Doc is a better fit at center right now, whereas Pierre-Luc Dubois can work on the wing. It's not ideal, but especially if you have to give up Josh Anderson in a potential trade for him, I think that Doc is or Dubois rather would be a decent replacement for Josh Anderson on the wing, playing with skilled players. Maybe more effective at center, but he could still also be effective on the wing, in my opinion. But right now, from what it sounds like, the Jets will want a lot more than Dvorak, a second, and a couple of prospects like Norlander or Mishak or maybe Joshua Roy, who I don't see the Habs giving up on. I think the Habs would really want to make it work with Joshua Roy. I think it'll take right now a Caulfield or a Suzuki or a Gouli to get Pierre-Luc Dubois, which is why, again, patience is the best move. Right side D, long story short, Gregory, Canadiens don't have many answers outside of Logan Mailloux, who I think is just more of a wild card right now. He has to get his health back. Not only does he have to, I guess, fully go through he has to fully grow off the ice, but he also has to heal physically because he dealt with shoulder issues this past year. I think if Logan Mailloux pans out for the Canadiens, that would be a bonus. I don't know if that's something that could be relied upon. Like basically, I'm being patient with him is what I'm getting at. Send him back to the London Knights for another year. Maybe makes it to Laval in 2 years. Just let him go the long road and see what you got. But yeah, Arbor Jacki definitely Arbor Jacki speaks has shades of Ben Sherrod and maybe even Romanov if he can just round out his game in the possibly in the AHL this year. He was a really good player for the Hamilton Bulldogs on their run to the Mem Cup, even though they ended up losing in the Mem Cup final to the Sea Dogs, I think it was, or Cataracts. I think it was the Sea Dogs. Anyway, yeah, I think it was the Sea Dogs. So, where am I? Yeah, so left side, the Habs have plenty of left-handed defensemen that can grow into roles, but I'm still concerned for their lack of right-handed defensemen in their system. And I know Kent Hughes mentioned that Matheson and Harris can play on the right side, but I'd rather them have the opportunity to play on the left side and stay on the left side if possible. Regarding Pitlick, the start of free agency, too many forwards and max. I'm putting a max on the NHL salary. I forget who this was. This the same commenter? Oof, I'm gonna have to go back. I'll come back to this one. Robert Levine. I'm sorry about that. I'll have to come back to that. Robert Levine says, I want to find that comment though, because again, I forgot to reference it. So I want to reference it. It was, pardon me. It was, you wait. I'll try to find it later. But anyway, it was someone said that Rem should have been re-signed as he was an excellent when he came over to the Habs. Dak should have gotten a bridge deal as they went to all the trouble to get him. Pitlick has more upside than Pizzetta. Why are Byron, Armia, and Hoffman still here? Bergie sure screwed the Habs before he left. And to those that liked him, look at the salary cap mess he left us in by signing players for far too much for far too long term. NHL needs to fix the salary cap problem, set limits on salaries. No players worth $7 million plus. Samsonov would have been an excellent addition. This is, again, before free agency. So, again, lots to unpack here. So, again, Pitlick. What I wanted to relate to here is just, again, the Canadiens are in a position where they still have to make a move because they have too many NHL forwards to fill 12 forward spots. And that doesn't mean that they have too many good NHL forwards. They just have too many forwards who are capable of playing an NHL role. Likely, like they basically have way too many. They definitely have more than 6 bottom 6 forwards. That's it. They don't have enough top 6 forwards, but they have way too many bottom 6 forwards right now. Guys like Byron, Armia, Hoffman, as whoever this is referencing. I'm sorry if I might have forgot to copy over the name. But But yeah, I think Bergevin last year just look, he panicked when he knew that he wasn't going to get Carey Price or Shea Weber back. I think he panicked when he lost Philip Deneau, and that's what made him bring in. I wouldn't call Savard a panic signing. I think Savard is actually needed given the Canadiens lost Weber and don't have a lot of right-handed defensemen. So Savard was a good signing. I think that Wideman was a good signing, but the Hoffman signing, I thought it had potential at the time, and it maybe could have worked with the full complement of everyone that took the Habs to the Cup final last year. But ultimately, it was for maybe not so much the cap hit, but I think the term was a little too long. That's what really hurt the Canadiens, is that extra year. If it was maybe a 1 year or 2 year flyer contract, just to see if he could still keep up his production that he had in St. Louis and Florida. But I think it was like 60 points with the Blues that year in 2020, or no, it was a 60-point pace with the Blues in 2021. But either way, yeah, just I think that just Bergevin got desperate and put the Canadiens in a tough place this offseason. So yeah, now Robert Levine, you wait, as Hughes decided to and reject any offers as after the Jets signed Dubois. Wouldn't trade any new prospects or the young talent on the ice at this time. Fans like myself already know that they're in rebuilding mode and will be patient for the next 2 years. So far, Hughes has done a remarkable job on that path. And yeah, basically what I've said with Pierre Dubois: patience, no need to give up a bunch of blue chip prospects and future draft picks, at least premium future draft picks for Pierre-Luc Dubois right now, and you could possibly get him for free in 2 years if he really wants to play here. And obviously, I didn't even mention the baggage that he carries of potential of asking for trades from 2 different teams. So if you want, again, that's also why I want Pierre-Luc Dubois to play here, but not to give up a top first round pick or a Caulfield or Suzuki type player. Heck no. Randy on Montembeault. OG, shout out Randy, one of our OG subscribers here on Langert the Mike. I'll get to your comment there at Domenico as well in a second here. Don't see Montembeault improving on his GAA or save percentage either. Like, yeah, Montembeault is just like keeping Montembeault is just something that the Canadiens had to do to at least have capable NHL bodies that can play in net this year, because ideally, you want Primo. Primo can play some games, I think, for in the NHL next year for the Canadiens, but I think Primo still needs just another full year in the AHL with the Laval Rocket. He's still in his early 20s. Goalies take all kinds of time to develop into starting goaltenders in the NHL if they even get there. So I say Primo, the move is patience and give him opportunities to succeed, i.e. not when the Canadiens have a bunch of injuries or COVID issues playing a healthy Leafs team in Toronto and he gets lit up for 4 goals in the first period. So just give Primo opportunities to succeed. I think that's right now with the Laval Rocket to stay in the AHL for now, especially to build off his great playoff run he had this past spring. But Montembeault, just even whether he improves or doesn't, just he's a capable body that earned himself an extension to stay with the Montreal Canadiens for another 2 years. So live, we had Domenico Verdone. Hoffman is a defensive liability. He should go first. And I honestly, when the Jeff Petrie trade was had not gotten done by the time free agency started, and there are also whispers that all the other teams that wanted Jeff Petrie wanted the Canadiens to retain some of his salary. I was starting to think, okay, maybe the Canadiens should turn the page and start focusing on trying to find a trade partner for Hoffman. I don't know if the Canadiens would have been able to move him and not retain salary. And I think the Canadiens might still have to retain some salary if they end up moving Hoffman, which is why right now I think the best thing that they could do for Hoffman if they don't trade him this summer is give him top 9 minutes. Do not bury him on the fourth line, as much as fans might want to see Hoffman just buried in a fourth line role or scratched every game in favor of guys like Slavkovsky, Anderson, Pitlick, possibly Byron Evans, Drouin, of course. Just you have to build up his value and put yourself in a position where you could trade him and not have to retain salary if possible. So Yeah, so again, going back to Randy's comment, agree that the Bergevin had bad contracts. Yeah, Dvorak, Hoffman, Gallagher, Armia, much worse contracts than Petrie, 100%. Petrie is still a capable top four NHL defenseman who could play 20 minutes a game, but Hoffman, defensive liability. Oh yeah, that's also related to Domenico's comment. Hoffman, defensive liability, could put up 60 to 70 points with high end, talented top six forwards, and also with a good power play, which the Canadiens didn't have last year. So, yeah, that's why I think Hoffman is, yeah. But Dvorak actually is a pretty, I think Dvorak, if he has a full season, could put up 50 to 60 points, which would be well worth $4 million a season, which is why Dvorak, I think, still has a lot of trade value. But yeah, Armia, too much of a wild card. $3.4 million for a bottom six forward is a little rich in today's cap world. Gallagher, he got paid for retroactively for what he did and not for what he's going to be. So it's either Gallagher got paid what he got paid or he is no longer Montreal Canadian. That could be a discussion for another time. On Pierre-Luc Dubois, Brendan O'Coin says Dvorak Anderson for Pierre-Luc Dubois makes financial sense, but Winnipeg wants to win the trade, so we wait 2 years and get him for nothing in a free trade. It would make Habs 3 lines strong and a contender in 2 years. Win, win, go Habs, go. Yeah, just same thing, Brendan, and just patience with Pierre-Luc Dubois is the move. On Michael Matheson, Daniel says Matheson is not a solid D-man. He was put in situations to succeed by their coaching staff, similar to a player like Justin Schultz. Matheson is a great offensive player, but that does not make him make up for his defensive lapses. Matheson is at best a number 3 or 4. Hope it works out for Montreal, but this is a short-term downgrade for you guys. So here's what I would argue, Daniel, is why can't the Canadiens just put Matheson in positions to succeed the way Pittsburgh did? I know the Canadiens don't have a Letang, they don't have a Crosby or Malkin for the power play, but why not? Why can't you just put him in? You do have guys like Edmondson and Savard, who I'm not saying they're Letang by any means, but you can put Matheson in positions to succeed in Montreal the same way he did Pittsburgh. Just you got like I think just if you play to his strengths, you play to his ability to skate, carry the puck, which is exactly what Martin St. Louis preaches. Read based on your hockey sense, based on your reactions. Read and react. Don't be tied to a system where if X happens, you have to do Y. You know, I think that might actually benefit Michael Matheson. So, yeah. Trading Edmondson, possibly Daniel 15 and Randy got into a huge argument. I don't want to say like a huge argument, just an interesting argument and an interesting discussion because Daniel, Randy, appreciate shout out to you guys. Matheson, Daniel says Matheson's arrival could make Joel Edmondson available for a trade and possibly with Winnipeg since he is originally from Manitoba. And that again brings up the question: can you possibly trade Joel Edmondson? I believe he has a modified no trade clause on his contract, but assuming that isn't an issue, assuming Winnipeg or whoever the Canadiens want to trade him to isn't on his no trade list, I say that you can trade Joel Edmondson once Gooley and Harris and Barron are more established because you do want to keep a veteran presence. There's already David Savard, sure, there's already Chris Weidman, but I do think Joel Edmondson definitely this year carries a lot of value for the Montreal Canadiens because he is going to be the guy getting all the tough matchups, playing the top minutes. Right now, he is the Canadiens' most established defenseman, Joel Edmondson. And that's why he's being even thought of as a potential captain possibility after Shea Weber. I think right now with the Slavkovsky draft, with the Habs drafting Slavkovsky, it should be Suzuki. I originally thought Gallagher when I thought it should have been Gallagher when I thought the Canadiens were going to take Shane Wright, and I thought that Shane Wright and Suzuki should both have the opportunity to earn the C. But I think it should be Suzuki, and but again, Edmondson being their best defenseman or most established defenseman right now. I think, I just think that he is. Like that's why he's getting possible. That's why a lot of people are thinking that Edmondson could be in the running for captain. But anyway, Roger says that good analysis as usual. Thank you on the Petrie trade. Great to have a detailed, thoughtful look at the trade. Added Pitlick to the trade as he was signed as a result. Exactly as I mentioned off the top as well. I think I thought of that because I read Roger's comment before. One more comment from Randy on the Habs having too many contracts. They have too many players with long-term contracts with big AAV. Secondly, Habs shouldn't go for high-priced free agencies. Instead, try to trade some pieces as Petrie, Hoffman, Dvorak. I agree with others who have said that Drew and Byron will. I think maybe will be traded. I didn't copy paste the rest of that comment, or anyway. But yeah, just again, the Canadiens are in a position where they have to make at least one trade because just they have too many forwards. Plain and simple. They have very little cap space and too many forwards. So you just think that I think Dvorak, Anderson are the guys that have the most value right now, but I think they don't want to trade Anderson for what we think he's worth, or they don't want to just give up on Anderson. They want to get a lot in return for Josh Anderson because they highly value him. And but with Dvorak, I think Dvorak is at least can possibly be replaced by Evans. Dvorak is still a great face-off man, and he could handle really tough defensive matchups. But Jake Evans has shown that he can possibly grow into that role as well, at least as a winger. Can he do it full-time as a center, and can he stay healthy? So that's the question, at least if you trade Dvorak, but at least the Canadiens, they have the ability to place Dvorak, I think, more so than Josh Anderson, even though Slavkovsky is an interesting replacement for Josh Anderson. But either way, the Canadiens, I think they want to get a lot in return for Josh Anderson and not just whatever, not just to get rid of his contract. So anyway, so that's all the time we have for today. This was fun. Again, just as usual, I'll just make sure you're subscribed to Langer at the Mic, because if you can't make the live stream, then I will keep featuring your comments whenever I do these live streams. And yeah, I enjoy it. And if you enjoyed it, you can give me a thumbs up on this video, hit like, hit subscribe, give me a follow on Instagram and Twitter at Mike Langer for both. And as usual, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again next time. Go Habs, go! And I hope you're having a great summer.